Given your experience, how have you seen the U.S.-China relationship change over the years?
Oh boy. It's gone through what I call 4 phases. The first phase was when we wanted to deal with the Soviet threat, and we needed China on our side to do that effectively. That extended from 1971 until 1989. 89 to 92, the relationship basically went on hold. China was going through a domestic crisis. They had the Tiananmen demonstrations, they had the crackdown, they had the collapse of the Soviet Union, and they had an internal struggle over economic policy. And it wasn't clear how they were going to come out of that. But as I mentioned, at the 14th Party Congress in the fall of 1992, they reaffirmed the reform and openness policies. And then we had the period when the United States, which went through this period of uncertainty of what we wanted from China. Finally, we became conscious of the fact that we had to deal with China as a major country, and that process set in during the Clinton administration and extended into the Bush administration. And then we had the financial crisis in 2008, which created the impression that Europe and the United States were declining powers, and we had China's sudden catch up with us in GDP growth much faster than we had anticipated. And we essentially had a blow to our own self-confidence, and we had the emergence of domestic divisions within the United States that our political system was having difficulty managing. So it's this dynamic of what seems to be a successfully rising, not very attractive China from the standpoint of American values, and a United States that had been the sole superpower, but now is having difficulty not only being successful in our international position, but also being successful in managing our own domestic affairs. And that's created a very troublesome dynamic in the U.S.-China relationship, where we are inclined to see China as a hostile power because it is being more successful than we are in dealing with economic development and maintaining domestic stability. So I think that's an exaggeration. I would much rather have the American hand to play in the world than the Chinese hand to play in the world. I think China still has a fundamental built-in contradiction between a modernized economy to a certain degree and a modernized population, thanks to decades of sending people abroad to study and being open to the outside world, and they haven't modernized their political system, which still is a monopoly of power in the hands of the Communist Party, which is no different from having a monopoly of power for a king and a nobility, if you will. That's a pre-modern form of governance, and modern countries have moved away from that, and China hasn't. So I think China has its own domestic problems to deal with, and we don't know how to tell China how it should handle that. But we also don't understand that we should stop giving the advice to other countries on how to run their domestic affairs. So I see China as a real challenge for us, but it's a manageable challenge. And in my judgment, there is no problem in the U.S.-China relationship that cannot be managed through skillful diplomacy. And there is no issue in U.S.-China relations that can be successfully managed through military power. So diplomacy is the way to deal with China, and it has to be diplomacy that is based on a realistic understanding of both our own strengths and weaknesses and the strengths and weaknesses of China.